If John doesn't subscribe...
Alright, hello everyone. I'm recording a video again. So here we are in Jurassic Arizona 2045. It's finally been completed. I think it's been about 5 months since I started this park, which is a really long time. And so it took a lot longer than I expected. In total, I estimate around 80 hours actually building in the save file. And I, unfortunately, was unable to run the park with dinosaurs in it because I didn't have the graphics card to be able to place it. So I sent the file off to Crazy Cat Miri, who has a better graphics card than me, and she thankfully added in all the dinosaurs. So thank you, Miri, for adding those back in. And go check out her channel. She does awesome Jurassic Evolution 2 builds, modded and unmodded. So, yeah, so here we are right by the entrance. I'm not editing videos, as you guys know, anymore. This is just a simple walkthrough, so there's not going to be any nice cinematic shots of this park. We're just going to be walking through on foot, and I'll be talking about the park. But if you want to see the park for yourself, or, you know, get some nice cinematic shots, I will be sharing some screenshots to my community tab pretty soon, but then after that, I actually plan to release this entire park save file onto Nexus Mods, where anyone who's watching this who has Jurassic Evolution 2 on PC can go download the park for themselves, and you can check it out. It'll be up there fairly soon. I don't know exactly when, but yeah. So for those of you who haven't seen the first episode, I'm gonna briefly explain this park. So it takes place in its own universe outside of the Jurassic universe. In the 2030s, some people figured out how to genetically recreate extinct animals, including dinosaurs, and also a big breakthrough in genetic technology, as well as a bunch of other stuff. But basically, it was, in the US at least, it was up to the individual states to determine the laws surrounding what you're allowed to do with this technology. And in most states, they made it illegal to genetically engineer dinosaurs and especially modified dinosaurs, and present them for public viewing for money. But the state of Arizona in this universe decided differently, to kind of monopolize on the profit of being able to have dinosaur parks, and so they made this one. Well, not the state, but a company did, and it opened in 2045 and has been expanded on since then. And so we have some pretty cool advanced technology in this park because it takes place in the future. And through this mountain, there's a tunnel that's on the other side. You would have to get there to a city, but then a shuttle takes you through the mountain and out of this hillside under these gates, and then this whole section is for those shuttles. So they drop off guests here, and then they drive back, and there's 2 gates. So the actual arrival building's right here. We're just using that as a guest building so that there is an actual arrival point in the park, but that's not what it's for. So yeah, we're just going to walk through this on foot. I used a lot of individually placeable trees because it's the desert biome, so, you know, I like the idea that they would plant a lot of temperate trees and bring in some trees on their own. I'll also show you guys, we'll do a flyover at night because I did some pretty cool stuff with the lights. I used those cycads a lot and ginkgos a lot. I used the Mediterranean big trees and the temperate plants a lot, as well as primarily the desert ground plants. So yeah, there's the other gate. I finally got to actually use this melt-to-wall piece. Obviously, the illusion doesn't really hold up when you get this close to it, but you guys get the idea. I'm going to alternatingly run and walk, and the whole idea of this park is to have a lot of really tall structures and just stuff you can see from a far away. Like right there, you can see those monoliths that are made out of the monorail structures and those really tall zip lines, which look impractical when they are put into a park like in the Jurassic universe or whatever, but I think they work given the story of this park. So this is our first exhibit. This is a Ceratosaurus exhibit. We have 2 individuals in here. I think this is a pretty cool exhibit. The whole walls are made of rocks. Obviously, there's no realistic way the staff would be able to manage this habitat, and that's the case in a lot of these, but especially since it's such a futuristic park, I'm fine with ignoring some realism for the sake of coolness. So you notice these lights are colored. That tells you where the guests can walk and where the different vehicles can go. And then you get to walk through these gates, which have 2 spotlights, which look pretty cool at night. I'm trying to think about what way I want to go first. I think I actually want to go this way first. So yeah, this is where you can cross. This would be a good viewpoint to take pictures. Obviously, the rocks are kind of in the way, But in real life, with the way your vision works, it would be easier to see than in a game where everything's equal resolution. So yeah, you cross over here, you gotta watch for vehicles, and then you cross to this side. So yeah, the first place we're heading is the sort of main street, and that's also where the hotels are, because I wanted that to be kind of close. It's not ideal because we don't have any direct transport. I'm on medium graphics right now on 1080p. That's the highest I can run it unpaused, but it's still totally possible to crash. So this exhibit here with these Jurassic Park fences is actually the Dimetrodon exhibit. I'm going to walk to the other side of this garden in a little bit. But yeah, over here you can see more of the Ceratosaurus. I use these desert planters a lot, and then I started switching to fountains on the other side, alternating with planters. So this hillside is a lot of rocks. And before we look at that Dimetrodon, I'm going to go ahead and walk up this hill. This path doesn't really go anywhere. You may have already seen it. By the way, this is a great map. I know we all didn't like building in it at first, but now that we have the expanded layout, these structures are so great as a backdrop, especially in a place like this. It looks really nice. So yeah, then we have this restroom. I use this Biosyn shelter. It's not really meant to be a shelter, just some sort of guest building. I don't really know what, just because it looks really nice, especially with the green roofs. Looks really good in this biome setting. So what we have here is a little seating area, but the main thing is these viewing platforms, which give you a view over a good section of the park, and you guys can see a lot of the stuff we're going to get to later. There's a lot of big structures here. Most of these trees are individually placeable, except for the ginkgos, because there is no dense tree brush on this map. So I'm going to plop us back down here to the Dimetrodon, and yeah, let's walk this way. So this is just a little exhibit, kind of meant to fill space, but I actually do really like how this ended up looking, and I use the Piscivore feeder. I know they wouldn't necessarily eat primarily fish, but it looks cool for the habitat, and we can say that that's stores other food or whatever. So there's 3 Dimetrodon here, and yeah, we turn this corner, you can still see the lagoon up on the hill over there. And here we are. The big tall rocks here, I do like them, but they do sort of hide how grand this view is from just a few feet above the ground, but you can see it better from the side. That's how the guests would really observe anyway. So we have kind of blocked off by gardens, but on either side we have these 2 guest attractions, which I think works pretty well. The whole idea of the way the path is laid out is that you have your main promenade for guests to walk on, but guests can walk out of the way and not block anything off. The footprints of these amenities are huge. We should be able to place decorations on this part. Just something. So, yeah, anyway, we have mirroring Rex skeletons on either side, which works pretty well at the 45-degree angle these buildings are at. And now let's walk down the main street. So, I used a lot of these Biosyn lights. That was kind of inspired by, I think it was Unity Park where they did this too. Something I really thought about in this was to use decorations to make the buildings seem unique, because the one thing we don't have enough of, I think, is buildings. I feel like I repeat a lot of the same buildings, even in a, well, especially in a very themed park. So, this is actually my first full park built on PC, and only my second completed park with all building sets. So considering, I think it's pretty good. My pathwork needs a lot of improvement. So these are aviary perches. You may be wondering, what are these doing here? These are meant as kind of modern art sculptures, which I thought was kind of a cool idea. I guess it doesn't really work because they are in the actual aviary. These are meant to be pretty dense foliage-wise. Some of them are less so, but I wanted to make some of these shops more brightly colored. This would be your Jurassic World Main Street kind of thing, very product placement. The middle section of this main street is made of concentric circles, which lets you direct the flow of traffic. We have lots of little areas like this off to the side. This actually lets us view right next to the monorails into the canyon. That's the Spinosaurus exhibit, but we'll get tons of other viewpoints of that later. So I'm just going to walk around this circle. Actually, let's walk back in the middle. You may be wondering what a viewing dome is doing here. By the way, I really like using these trees, these timber trees. They actually have a lot of volume, and I can use them in guest areas. What this is doing here, it doesn't really make much sense, does it? But that's actually a place that you can eat. This is for the super rich people. There's a restaurant over here. Well, next to a restaurant. It connects to this underground, is where I put the access point. And so basically you pay for your super fancy food and you get to sit in the center of the main street and watch all the other people walk around. And I do think this looks pretty wide, even though I used a lot of narrow paths and very dense decorations. Oops. I think I did a decent job at making it look okay from ground view as far as having space and mixing that modern look but still having something a little more cozy by having these heightened structures contrasting with these lower ground plants. And what's actually over here is this staff. There's supposed to be tables here, aren't there? I don't know. Maybe, yeah, that was for staff. I don't remember what that was supposed to be. We have the staff center, the Biosyn one. The Jurassic World one, too, I think work really well as guest buildings. I would advise everyone to use these as guest buildings, but you can actually walk through these on first person. And this actually leads to the VIP section, but we'll be going there later. Let's finish our tour of the main street. For any of you who didn't watch the series, I think you can already tell what the main point of this park is. It's all the rocks. And there are a lot of rocks in this park, and I think having that consistently over-the-top amount of rocks really brought together the build. It's 35,000 approximately total in the whole park. I think it might actually be more than that. But so this here is a viewing gallery, and this is going to show us into the Nigersaurus habitat, which we'll get way more views at later. There you can see the amphitheater. Across there you can see those are the VIP hotels. And which if you're in that one, you get a very good view into this habitat. And you can also see some viewing platforms, which we'll be seeing them later. This habitat curves around the side of the amphitheater all the way to the Herbivore Valley. So I really like having these big monorail structures kind of mirror the other sides. And I normally don't use the monorail structure in my park because, just with those sides and stuff, they don't look realistic to me. And they're so tall that they don't really make sense to be built in a park just decoration normally. But for the theme of this park, since it's so futuristic and ridiculously over the top, I thought it was fine. So then I really like this view because the visitor center fits right into the center of the amphitheater, and then I use the monorail structures on the side to kind of accentuate the amphitheater and make it its own building a little bit. And we have lots of seating opportunities here, and then we have these dueling Spinosaurus in the seating sections, which are always so fun to do, and kind of mirror the Rex skeletons at the start of the main street. So we also get another view into the Nigersaurus habitat here. It's not meant to be the best view ever because you're meant to go to the viewing gallery and stuff. I love the amphitheater and how tall these rock walls are, and it works so perfectly in this park, especially with the way these plants work on the bottom. It just looks like a very real dinosaur attraction place. I don't know how to describe the aesthetic, but it is very cool. And anyway, yeah. So you will say, what is this amphitheater actually for in this park? Because there's no habitat here, obviously. It's the hotel. You enter through the visitor center, you go through the visitor center, we have breakfast in there and everything, and then you go, and all of these are hotel rooms. And there's also one story underground because I like to imagine there's as much guest seating as possible because it's hard to realistically accommodate the number of guests a park like this would attract because we don't have big enough hotels in this park. And then there's also the VIP hotels if this main hotel is filled up. So again, you get to see the Nigersaurus. There's the viewing gallery we were in earlier. We're just going to circle this whole amphitheater. So let's go ahead and look through these viewing platforms, which I was worried I overused in this park. I think maybe I did. But anyway, we can see into the VIP section over there. Lots of rocks. They basically make up the whole barrier of this habitat, except for that part with the fence. But I like right here because I like this idea of a continuous biome. You can see into the Herbivore Valley, which we'll be looking at in more detail later. And then you can also see up onto that plateau, that monorail structure at the top, which kind of you can see from most of the park, which is pretty cool to me. And the Nigersaurus walking around down here. So we kind of have a continuous flow from this habitat into that habitat, into the Concavenator habitat, into the T-Rex habitat, into the Spinosaurus habitat. You'll see it a little more clearly later on once we do some overview. So this would be another way to enter. The amphitheater would just be from the sides, and not from the front, but from the sides. From the other two entrances you didn't even know were there. So anyway, I did these alternating lights with the Biosyn lamps. Obviously they're not exactly rotated, but I like putting them in an angle like that because it contrasts what I did most of the time. So I really like this viewpoint into the Nigersaurus habitat, using the concrete barriers and then the rocks on this side, and then these thicker planters on the right. I think works really well, especially with these very different two structures. And this is still placed evenly to the amphitheater how it should be, but helps that curve of the habitat. And you'll notice those trees down there. Those are like the guest trees, and they're surrounded by rocks. The idea is that those trees are the ones that the Nitrosaurus primarily eat from, and they have to eat from those trees to get their nutrition because they're genetically engineered. So they would have to walk over to this viewpoint where the guests can see them. And then these lights look really cool, especially at night. It's a very dramatic way to walk into your hotel. So then this view will show us over the herbivore/gyrosphere valley, and you can also kind of see into the aviary over there. And you can see up onto that plateau where there's more guest sections. You can see all the way to that guest section over there, and just a wide section of the park. But mostly this is meant to look like a natural biome with that very tall structure of the aviary, which I think works really well here because it's so blue, and it contrasts the rest of the park. There's a fat-nosed dragon right there that's stuck. I don't know if you can see him. Hopefully he gets better. And then here we start circle, and you can see those really tall zip lines. Really works. I want this main street, even though we're at a lower elevation compared to a lot of the park, I want this to be a area where it's really grand, and everything's... This would have been the first section of the park that was planned and built, so that's the idea. Still technically connected to the Herbivore Valley, but blocked off by rocks. We have this concavinator habitat, which you will also be able to see from that elevated guest section later. Realistically, is this a bit close? Yes, but it's the future, so there's invisible fences or whatever. And I think this is a nice seating opportunity, especially for like early morning. And you can actually use these as transport to get all the way to the other side instead of walking around, but we'll ride the zip lines later because I do want to walk around, because otherwise we're going to miss a little bit. There's a concavinator. Actually, let's go ahead and go to that viewing gallery real quick so we can see him. So yeah, there's 3 concavinator in here. They have a pretty big area, and they have a very big canyon. So see, that would be a cool zip line to ride, wouldn't it? Especially with those cliffs in the backgrounds. And yeah, that's the leader of the concavinator. There's 3. The other 2 have the green and blue skin. Concavinator is such a great species. This is actually the first time I was able to actually build for them in the game. I'd never had a chance to before this park, and that was actually the case for many species, just because I don't build that many parks, because they take so long, and I also play Prehistoric Kingdom and stuff. I'm going to go ahead and skip back to the entrance of the main street real quick. So here we are on the other side of the Dimetrodon habitats. So what we've seen so far is literally just the first 2 episodes of the build, and there are basically 10 episodes, only 8 that are, well, 7 that are viewable on YouTube. The episode 7 was the 24-hour live stream where we worked on this park, which is viewable. I reposted it in 4 sections because it's too long for me to post on YouTube unedited, unfortunately, but that's still viewable for you guys, and it's on the playlist for this series if you want to check it out. And we have all those different builds. The T-Rex Kingdom was my last video while I was actively working on this channel. But then, basically, there were 2 more sections after that, so we're going to call it a 10-part park. So that's that wider path we walked up. You'll notice I don't like very wide paths. They don't look good to me from above. I use them some here. Oh, you can already see what's in this habitat. So, yeah, I really like being separated by just a canyon. These rocks are supposedly still too tall for a guest to climb over, and we're going to invoke the invisible fence again or whatever. Magical future technology keeps you safe. So yeah, this is the Spinosaurus habitats, and we have 2 of them in here, just like we have 2 T-Rexes that kind of mirror them on the other side of the park, which is pretty cool. We get a better view later, but they have this monorail structure as kind of the backdrop to their exhibit, and then also the zip lines. But yeah, we have this little section over here, just a basic guest section. I do like doing this for seating areas. It looks pretty cool, especially like in zoos where they're working on another section. They kind of block it off by this repeating pattern. Obviously, that's not what's going on here. Then that would take forever to place with these, and they're not that tall, but still. And then we have a Waffle House. And this view, we're pretending there's glass here, looks into the Tyrannosaurus habitat, which is actually the habitat for wherever they've it's connected to the facility section. So whenever they hatch a new animal, they have their first habitat where they place their high security dangerous animals. They have hatched one animal that was so terrible that it couldn't be shown to the public, and it's kept in the facility section. So whenever they hatch a new animal, now it's moved out here while they're temporarily being moved to their new habitat. So you guys will see what that terrible, disgusting creature was. By the way, the species in this park were decided by a poll. Not all of them, but while I was actively doing the series, I would make a poll with 4 different dinosaurs. One that I really like, one that I kind of like, and 2 that I don't like. I think that's what it was. Maybe it was 2 that I kind of like and 1 that I don't like. And I had you guys pick what dinosaurs go in this park before I did the build, obviously. So this is actually probably my least favorite section of the whole park because I don't like having just this straight line with 2 fences. And I love these planters, but they are kind of hard to include, and I use them to kind of break up the straight lineness of this, but not that effectively. The Tyrannosaurs are pretty cool. And yeah, you can see into the spinal habitat more, but then this is where we get our proper view. And guys, look how safe this is. No one could ever climb over these planters and walk straight into the habitat. Obviously just because we have limited terrain compatibilities, but then I made this big fountain display in the center with 4 spinal skulls and these 3 viewing galleries that kind of jut out like an island into the habitat. So where are they? There he is. We have 2, both with this skin, my favorite spino skin. They look very intimidating, especially with that in the backdrop. And I think the reason the monoliths work so well here is because the cliffs are so much taller. And here they have this little area that passed through. Their feeders right over there. We can't quite see it. But yeah, I think that spinal habitat's actually pretty nice. It feels much more natural, and it's quite a large exhibit. I try to do better with large exhibits in this park because I don't build that many huge exhibits. This is the emergency shelter, which connects directly into the staff section. It's an open fence to the door. And so yeah, you could, if there was an emergency, you could access the staff center there, and also it's just an alternate entrance for staff. So yeah, I like the idea of this false transparency. That kind of gives you a little bit of a view into the staff section, but you don't really be able to see what's going on. But I thought that some people would think that's kind of cool, and we're going to go ahead and ride the zipline from here, but we will end up hopping back to the other side. I'm going to actually, real quick, switch on day-night cycle so that we're not in the shadow for this whole section. Just real quick, and I'll speed us up 3 times while we ride this zipline. No, it's going the wrong way. Let's go ahead and ride this. And this cliff that took so long. I think there's like about 2,000 rocks in just this cliff section. And you can see a little bit on that guest section we're about to go to. I was very sleep deprived when I built that section, so it's definitely the worst built section of the park. But it's still pretty cool to have that elevated view. I'm going to wait for our day-night cycle update real quick. Okay, here we are. I moved the shadows by switching to daytime. And this section's not that good, but I do like that the slow gradual elevation increase there to the left. This is another view into the concave air habitat that's totally safe. We're gonna walk this way first and go into this facility section, which obviously not much attention is given in this park to how it practically works, but here I usually glitch to place this gate on the path. I think this is pretty clear, but people always ask. So there's no mods used in this park. This is a vanilla build. I don't want to install mods just because it's so close to the release of Evolution 3. It's like starting a whole new game to me, especially since I have Prehistoric Kingdom. I kind of enjoy playing with the limitation for now. And I would be installing them, and I will be for Evolution 3 once it's done with development, but not yet. So, yeah, this is our kind of hatchery section. I did actually practically use this hatchery. I like including the hatcheries actually in the park because I think they're cool buildings. So yeah, we have all sorts of materials for managing the park. And there's our hatcheries. Yeah, we do have a way to view the monsters, which release into kind of like an airlock zone, which then releases into this round habitat that's kind of sunken down into the ground, which you can see. We also have these 2 transport areas off to the side, separated by their own gates, which you could walk into. You know what, we'll actually just walk into this section so you can see what I mean. So we have one of these on either side for if they're transporting an animal or if they need to directly manage them by hand. This is where the animal is released from the hatchery into. We have a maintenance tower, or sniper tower, or whichever it needs to be. An airlock zone, And then we have the monsters habitat, which is sunk down into the grounds. As you guys voted, we have the Deinonychus, my least favorite creature in the game, with the purple skin, which isn't a bad skin. And we have these two towers to observe them or shoot them, but if the board would allow it, but they won't. Oh well. Let's go ahead and walk up the other gate, actually. I hope I remember to place one on this side. Yeah, I did. So, this staff section is meant to feel pretty big because it keeps on curving and going, and I left this opening to walk into this, which is pretty cool. I like that we can walk on the buildings in first-person view, which, speaking of, Prehistoric Kingdom released the trailer for Update 14 today, which will include the first-person view, and that's going to be testable on April 2nd, which is pretty cool. And here we have these power stations. A lot of people don't like the Jurassic World power stations. I understand why, but for this park, I really like how they work. They just kind of look like these giant blue batteries that sit on the grounds, and they're pretty cool to me. I did like them a little better in Evolution 1, but that's okay. So then we have a big shipping container maze area. Lots and lots of these guys. And lots of supply piles. We have some power generators right here. And this is the Tyrannosaurus habitat, which they'd be able to directly walk into. I'm going to fly back to the exits real quick and plop us down right here. We're going to go to the left, actually. So let's walk up this hill. We get another chance to see the Concavenator over here. I use the multi-wall here just because it works. I don't like the multi-wall that much, and it doesn't fit the aesthetic, but it's okay to use a few times. They do have a feeder. Obviously, all the animal needs are turned off in this park. I'm a sandbox player. I don't care what the game says they need. So, yeah. Then we have some guest attractions over here, which was nice to use because they're such big buildings that are sometimes hard to incorporate, but I tried to use them some. I use these planters a lot because they're very tall and they serve as walls, and I think they look pretty good. We're going to walk down that path in just a minute. That's going to connect us back down to the ground. We have this big open plateau. There's not actually much up here. We have open sand, lots of decorative fountains. This is meant to just kind of look nice from above, really. We have a John Hammond memorial, but we're pretending this isn't John Hammond because he doesn't exist in universe. It's somebody else. I don't really know who. And I like that we're kind of almost on level view with these monorail structures, and we get another chance to see the Gyrosphere Valley and where you're going to go pay to ride the gyrosphere. And lots of rocks. That's really what your view is filled up by in this park a lot of the time. I didn't actually mean for this view to be that good, but I do actually like how it turned out. Okay, so let's walk down here. We're going to head to the right so that little bit we missed, which the pathwork especially is substandard. This is a tiny Crichtonsaurus habitat. It's not the greatest view just because the rock size never changed, but those shades are meant as shades, especially for these heavy animals that probably aren't, we're going to say they're genetically not accustomed to the desert as well. Maybe they were hatched earlier. It's kind of the back section of the zoo. So they need that shade. And there's 3 of them in here, I think. We just have some little gardens. I really didn't know what to do over here. If you guys want to go watch the live stream, it's pretty funny me trying to figure out how to build this section and ending up with, just something that fills the space, really. I use these plants a lot. I tried to avoid tropical plants, and you'll notice the distinct lack of palm trees for the desert biome. That was fully intentional and also kind of a personal challenge to build a park without palm trees. There's not a single one in this park unless you count the ginkgos, not the ginkgos, the cycads have sometimes palm-like structures, but those are ground fronds, they're ferns, they don't count. They're not actually ferns, but they're closer to ferns. And then these things, I just like how they kind of create a wall, but they're still planters because of the way they're shaped. I don't know. Those work pretty well, and I like to use them in moderation in this park. So then we have this big circle with 3 Alamosaurus skeletons. You'll notice I used a lot of skeletons in this park. I usually try to avoid repeating them too much. I definitely repeated them too much here, but they're really nice decorative items. And it's my park, so it's okay. Then this section is where we have a little staff storage area over here. This section is where you get onto the gyrosphere. There's two main lines of gyrosphere, like the green line and the blue line, that take you through different areas. I think it's the green line that's more expensive, which makes sense because green in this park is the color of the VIP area. So you get a pretty good view over the valley from here, but not great. We're pretending there's a pipe underground that this water waterfalls off and it runs through the whole valley, which is pretty cool. You'll notice this Biosyn building. It's meant to be a this is a Hyperloop station. We don't actually use Hyperloop mainly as transport in this park, though I probably should have, because there's some. To get to the T-Rex Kingdom, you have to either take the gyrosphere or the monorail, and the monorail has to go through. It would be not good for claustrophobic people, and neither would the gyrosphere. So if you're claustrophobic, I guess you just can't see the T-Rex in this park unless you're like want to pay for a helicopter. But oh well. Anyway, yeah, this is the green line. Lots of green decorations, and you're going to see the T-Rex and the Pteranodon, and also the herbivores. That sign is on the other side. I use this see-through fence here, which I think looks pretty good. I never realized how tall this fountain is because it's fairly new. I haven't used it much. I don't know why I don't have the herbivore sign, but you can also see the herbivores briefly here. But the other one is the main herbivore viewing. So when we get across here, I kind of use this to block off people from, walking through the gates, getting in the way of the gyrospheres. They're empty right now. I guess I can drive one through the habitat, but not yet. I'm going to finish showing you guys this whole area first. So, yeah, that crosses over into the aviary. It's a huge aviary, by the way. This view, you can see the gyrospheres go right by. From the blue line, there's a path on the other side. The view's much better over here. Go right by, but you can't really see the herbivores that well, which is intentional because they're kind of blocked off by these rocks. That gyrosphere's going the wrong way. I'll switch that before I post it on Nexus. So yeah, we have a queue to get into this gyrosphere, which I didn't put on the other one because it's the more expensive one, so less people are going to be going there anyway, so this is sufficient. I'm going to switch the direction these are going because they're going the wrong way. These are good. Nope, they're also going the wrong way. Okay, so, let me think about how to tour the rest of this. I think we're going to take the green line gyrosphere. So yeah, let's head into the aviary. I'm going to kind of drive us in a straight line. The path weaves a lot. The goal was for this to be just a huge space with a ton of animals. I don't think I have quite enough, but we have Thanos Draken and Sierradactylus. This is the first time I finally got to actually build for Thanos Draken. It's meant to be more open, but it's also because I was getting lazy with the decoration. This was the last section I built of the park. This and the habitat on the other side. And I really like this look of this giant open roof, just this unrealistically huge structure. Lots of water in here, lots of perches, rocks around the side, but I didn't go too heavy on the rock work because I wanted the view to be more or less unobstructed. The Thanos look really cool flying around because they're so huge. I think I should have added more of the small pterosaurs though, because even Sierradactylus is not tiny. I think he's the smallest of the medium pterosaurs though in the game. So yeah, this aviary is pretty cool, but definitely could have been decorated better. So we're going to go ahead and head out this gate. Don't worry, you'll get to see the aviary again in a minute. Why is the gyrosphere like drifting? Why can I not just turn? Okay. Well, we're going to get a quick drive-by of another habitat right here. This on our right, past this rock barrier, which you'll be able to see more clearly in a bit through that viewing gallery, is for the Pachycephalosaurus. And when we get to this guest section, you'll notice it's not fully decorated, which is intentional, totally, because I didn't realize you could go up that ramp. Because I like putting under construction areas in my park because the park is always expanding. It's never done. So yeah, we have a queue for this. I'll just walk back out the long way, which would be the way you enter, of course, the longer side of the queue. And so we have supply piles and stuff, cranes. It's still the finishing touches on this are still being put. It's not completely open right now. The gyrospheres would just go through the station, but this is going to open in a couple weeks. So you'd go through here too. We have a little area for the hatchery, which is always fun to do. I like leaving the hatcheries on exhibit sometimes. So this is a Paki habitat. It's actually a pretty big habitat, which was intentional because I kind of like the idea that they would run through as a herd every now and then. Are they going to do the social animation? Yeah, that's pretty cool social. We have, we can only see the orange ones right now, but there's blue ones in here too. So yeah, I like the idea that they would kind of, it looks more like a natural habitat because it doesn't have any back, so it looks like they keep going into the wild. So we're going to hop back on the gyrosphere. We have another amenity over here, by the way, but it's pretty basic. I like how the structure of the aviary works. And normally I only use the Jurassic World one when I want it to be a biodome, but I didn't want to put any dinosaurs into this habitat because I don't feel like it works that well. I've heard that music so many times. So yeah, we're just going to kind of drive by this lake and make our way to the next stop. So the gyrosphere track actually goes right by the hatchery, which would be a cool experience if they were releasing animals, but you know, that happened like once every couple of years, so the gyrosphere would probably be turned off when they were releasing them anyways, for realism, but it's still kind of cool. These gyrospheres are really slow. I don't build for the gyrospheres that often. They don't fit into the aesthetic of that many parks. The tour vehicles always seem more realistic to me. I like the Jurassic World tour vehicles actually probably the most because they're so neutral. If I'm doing something that's my park, it's not specifically themed to the Jurassic universe, that's what I'm most likely to use. That one or the Malta tour, but you know, that one doesn't look quite as good. We also have the DFW. I always forget we have so many varieties of that tour. The Jurassic World is my favorite though. So I think I'm just going to drive through the lake because we have actually, no. There's one more bit of this that I want you guys to see that's actually pretty cool. There's kind of a path that carves through this central lake. See, where are all the animals? There's 30 pterosaurs in here. Where are they? I mean, okay, I see a couple of Thanos. Definitely should be more pterosaurs. Oh, nope, I went the wrong way. Never mind, I'm just going to drive us to the gate. Is that the right gate? I don't know. We're going to find out. No, it's not. Those gates are actually really good opportunities to surround them with the right kind of trees. And I think you can see how my progress improved over the course of this park and how I got better at building. I think it's pretty clear. I learned a lot about habitat decoration. And it was an extra challenge because of the desert biome, which I am not going back to this biome anytime soon. Actually, this is probably my last Evolution 2 park. Oh, here we are in the T-Rex habitat. There's one of our 2 T-Rex. We have a blue one and a green one. And it's a huge habitat. This habitat took me 10 hours. And we get lots of other places, but we do get one view from the gyrosphere onto this sort of ridge, which is pretty cool for the T-Rex. And you can see a pretty long ways into the distance. And you can see their pond down there. Oh yeah, and I set this Jeep to constantly drive through the habitat and go maintenance or ranger post, which I think was pretty cool. I'm gonna follow the track because I'm not exactly sure where I'm supposed to go. That track goes this way and then it turns around. Okay. Hang on. Because I'm not sure which gyrosphere line we're on. This one. Okay. We're not going the wrong way. Oh, these are hard to drive through. Especially because I can't see because of these trees. Okay. Alright, there we go. Now we are actually in the Herbivore Valley, and as you can see, this is going to drop us off at the station for the T-Rex Kingdom viewing, and that whole guest section, which I think we're going to actually walk through real quick. We're going to go back to the Herbivore Valley later, but you can see where we just went. We started here, we went through the aviary, went back this way, on top of that ridge, and then back to here. So this has a little queue, so you'd exit and walk out this way, and you're in the T-Rex Kingdom area. Actually, I would kind of like to view this from the other entrance, because that's kind of the way it's meant to be viewed. So we're going to hop on the blue line gyrosphere, which as you can see goes through this whole Herbivore Valley, and we're going to go on that section first. And then we'll see the T-Rex Kingdom in more detail at the end, actually. This park is less linearly designed than my normal ones. I oftentimes like to make big loops with my park. Sometimes I do an out and back and just provide additional transport options like Hyperloop. But yeah, I like having this section near the gyrosphere have a lot of rocks and be kind of obscured, and then you go into this big open valley. So it kind of goes downward slope, even though it's mostly flat terrain. So in here we have Nodosaurus, Struthiomimus, Camarasaurus, Mamenchisaurus, Muttaburrasaurus, Edmontosaurus, and what's it called? Stegoceratops. Which the reason I use Stegoceratops is that even though it's kind of a silly animal, I never use it in my park because it doesn't feel realistic. But in a park like this, where there's intentionally genetically modified animals, I think the hybrids work perfectly, but I didn't want to use one that was from a movie, because I wanted to feel like my own park. And then this section is kind of meant to be...
Hello.
I keep losing track of what I'm saying. This is a plateau where you can view from the T-Rex Kingdom accompanying guest area down into the valley. Sorry, there's some graphical issues with the motion blur right now. You can see where the monorail goes through the lagoon later using a glitch, so here we are. Struthiomimus, the first dinosaur we all incubated back in Evolution 1. That was so long ago. So yeah, we have a this Biosyn viewing tower here, which was actually added kind of last minute, but it incorporates, I think, really well. It has a Hyperloop connection to that Biosyn power station that was in the gyrosphere area. So this rock wall is kind of blocking us off from the VIP section, which has this more downhill flowing path. I use the darker colors, and I like how the hotels feel slightly nested, especially into the grounds. So, yeah, they would get a pretty good view of this valley. That would be a pretty cool place to wake up, eat breakfast, you know, look out over the Herbivore Valley. I am worried sections of this park are too crowded. That fence on our right separates us from the Nigersaurus habitat. I guess I probably, in retrospective, could have made that part of the Herbivore Valley, but I kind of like how this fence looks, where it's elevated on both sides with the rocks, with the curving fence. It's pretty nice. And I use Camarasaurus just because I never use it. And of the sauropods, it actually has pretty decent skins. And it's not the best design in this game, but it is one of my favorite sauropods. Not my favorite. My favorite's probably still Diplodocus. But yeah, it's a pretty cool animal, so I wanted to actually use it for once. And there's Muttaburrasaurus, another design I underrated, but which I really like, and I especially like with this black and white skin. I think it's pretty neat, especially with the blue in the nose. That looks actually really nice. I believe there's 4 Camarasaurs in here, 2 Mamenchisaurus, 3 Stegoceratops. There they are. Not the best skin. I think I maybe should have picked a different one, but I liked using something that looked a little bit artificial with this kind of minty blue. And obviously, all that says Jurassic Park San Diego, and all the signage doesn't really make sense. Like, we have lots of Jurassic Park flags. That's just what happens when you use building sets from different eras. It's not going to always be perfect, but that's the game. And it's kind of something cool about this game. I came up with this analogy. Sure, I could just play Prehistoric Kingdom, which is kind of like making a nice park in Prehistoric Kingdom, or even modded Evolution 2, but that's still a little different, is like making a really good painting where you have really nice art supplies and all the time you want. And Evolution 2 is kind of like making a really nice painting, but you made it with finger paint. So even though the painting's less good, it's somehow more impressive in a certain way. I don't know if that analogy makes sense, but I think you probably know what I mean. So I really like how the aviary structure looks in the background. This connects us back to that area where we were before, with the blue line. So I'm actually gonna fly us out real quick. And there's the whole Herbivore Valley. We have this section still to tour and that T-Rex habitat. We have the whole plateau to tour, and the VIP section to tour. So we're actually going to pop all the way back to the entrance, right by the Ceratosaurus habitat, and this little guest area to view the left side of the park. An actual guest would probably take multiple days to go through this park, and they wouldn't be walking through in a straight line anyways, so it's fine. So here I use the Jurassic Park walls, which everybody loves these. I like them, but I wish they didn't have this skull and neck on them because they look so repetitive. I still rotate them randomly, as you can see, but it's still so clearly the same wall over and over again, and it wouldn't be if it didn't have something so strong like that. So here, this is actually a Kentrosaurus habitat. We'll get a way better view in a minute. This area is not my favorite, especially when I built it, but now that it's incorporated into the larger park, I kind of like these wavy paths, stretching gardens, and lots of different seating opportunities. But first, we're going to walk this way and go through this entrance to the VIP section, if I can figure out where I am. So yeah, this is about where that, from the main street would have put us. That, there it is, that wall. And then there's all these green lights, and you walk kind of under the monolith, so you're going to the rich people place. And through all the trees, I wanted this to feel fairly cramped. Unfortunately, the view's not great because I tried to kind of block these off, but obviously you can't get the trees that close or you delete the pillars, which was the struggle with all these, because I could have just blocked off the ugly parts on the side with the trees, but that would have deleted the pillars, so I did the best I could, considering. So here we are. This is a lot of open path for me. I like using these walls to make like this kind of wavy structure. I do it twice in this park. And we have 4 of these little hotels back to back, which is pretty cool. I really like how this section looks, especially at night. Some of this I don't like as much. I use this Biosyn building. Lots of the Biosyn buildings especially, but several of the operations building can be used as guest buildings, and I like to do that because they look so unique compared to just a customized mini, which have the same footprint every time, even though you can customize them. That's something I really want in Evolution 3, is all customizable buildings. As I walk through here, I'm going to talk about Evolution 3 and Prehistoric Kingdom, and here I did another wavy thing with these. So, you guys know the news. Evolution 3 is not getting announced today. I am actually fairly convinced that that was the intention, especially given Jurassic Evolution 2 is on 100% sale on Epic Games Store right now, which was pretty surprising. So there you can see the plateau. And so I thought, surely this is a tactic, which makes sense to promote sales on Evolution 3, right? Here you can see the Nitrosaurus habitat again. But Frontier's not on the list for the people announcing at Epic Games Show, which you would say maybe they're going to do a surprise, because they were tagged earlier, which was weird, but then they were removed. So, you know, that at first makes sense, but when you really think about it, and like how much they get from content creators and people streaming this looking for their game, it doesn't really make sense. I think they would just announce that they're going to be there, and the fact that they were tagged and then cut, it is weird. They were the only ones tagged, but that makes me think that they were going to be in the show, but they have now delayed it because the game needs more time to develop, which, if that is the case, I think that's good. I don't want any unnecessary delays, but if the game needs more time, give the game more time. I think that's a good thing. So that's that hotel we can view the Nitrosaurus from pretty well. And so that does mean it is a little longer till Evolution 3 release, probably. We don't know. It could still happen. They could have some weird marketing strategy and they're releasing sooner. This will go up to a little hill and we'll see the Styracosaurus habitat, but we'll get to see that again later. But I'll go ahead and show you guys the view. So maybe they're doing some weird marketing strategy that nobody's mentioned yet. I don't know. I'm not Frontier. This is Styracosaurus. And so, but assuming it's late to November, that would mean that I would have enough time to build another park in this game before the end development. And I was considering it. I really was considering, maybe I'll do another park, because I really want to build another temperate park, because I haven't built a full-scale temperate park. By the way, I use the Jurassic Park rock here just because it looks so good with the curves of that building, those solar panel-y things, especially at night. But obviously not much Jurassic Park, that would say Jurassic Arizona 2045 and show its logo. But I'm actually not going to do that. This is probably my final park in Evolution 2, because I'm starting a Prehistoric Kingdom project pretty soon. There won't be building videos, obviously, but I'll share what I build in screenshots and maybe some buildings on the workshop and stuff. I have some other building projects, but I'm just pretty busy, so I don't think I'll have time to build again in this game. Hopefully, we're still getting a summer release, but at this point, I think November is more likely. I'm going to go ahead and switch us to permanent daytime because it's starting to get dark. Now the shadows are weird. Hang on a minute. Okay. Sorry this tour's pretty long. I have a lot to say about my own park. By the way, here you can see these gardens from above. Oh, and I totally neglected to mention, we have a Chunkingosaurus habitat over here. They got their revenge after losing the pole in the last park, but they got added this time. We have these big open gardens. I like using these benches here, even though I use the more decorative looking benches in most places. I think they work pretty effectively here. There you can see one of those VIP hotels. There's, I think, 7 or 8 of them. So it gives us some decent guest seating. We have a decorative water bit here in these benches. Decorative water is hard to place, and it does work really well in the desert, but I didn't use it quite that much just because it's so hard to place and messes with the terrain like crazy. So here's another chance to see the Kentrosaurus. We have 2 of this kind of burnt dark skin. I use the 2016 Kentrosaurus just because I think they look better. The other one's fine, but I wanted a more imposing Stegosaur that's not Stegosaurus because I use that one all the time. And then we have one that's kind of an albino looking one with the white skin. And let's look over here. This is, there we go, Styracosaurus right here by the fence. And their back wall is created by this rock wall of the plateau. There's 6 of them in here. They have a fairly large habitat. This is the best place to view them with these tropical planters, which I think was the first time I placed them in this park. Just a few ginkgos, relatively sparse. It's a pretty long habitat. So yeah, I don't think I missed much around here, maybe a little bit. But when you get the file, you can see it yourself. Just so you know, it is kind of hard on your graphics card, but I think it's fine as long as you're touring it. It's only a problem when you're trying to build. So it shouldn't be too much of a problem. There is a lot of placeable items, and you know, the rocks all have to cast their own shadow, which I think is the real issue. Evolution 2 is not optimized for park builders. It's, for some reason, they've optimized the game like we're going to play it the way it's meant to be played. But no one would ever do that. I'm going to go ahead and pause so we can, actually, we give it a second, so we can ride the monorail in just a second. But I got to show you guys this whole section. So we have this queue that leads up to the monorail. The monorail doesn't actually take us onto the plateau. It takes us through the lagoon to the other side of the plateau, and where we get to view the Rex habitat. But real quick, I'm going to show you guys this section first. In this queue, we have this little space, which I would normally have made a garden, but we have so many gardens that I decided to make this a Coelophysis habitat. I think there's 6 of them in here. They're pretty cool, and I like using flags a lot in this park. And this is what takes you to the top of the plateau. We're pretending it's not like a normal Hyperloop. It's just kind of an underground elevator because such a short distance. Maybe it's literally just an escalator inside the building. So yeah, let's go ahead and ride the monorail. Obviously, we're going to clip through the ground for a second, and we'll walk along the plateau in just a little bit. But you get to see a lot of the park from here, which is pretty neat. And I think it wouldn't have worked to have monorail as a main transportation source since I use them also as sculptures. But since it's just for this short line, you don't see much of the track. I think it's okay. We're going to pass between a guest seating section and a habitat right here, which is for the Dracorex and looks out over the whole canyon, which I think is pretty cool. At night, you'll see there's also lights under this track. So there's the Dracorex. You can wave at your friend sitting here as you go into the lagoon. We have Styxosaurus, lagoon viewing domes, lots of kelp. I didn't fully decorate the surface because the decorations would have, one, taken up a lot of RAM space, but they also would have just moved because they do that annoying thing when you try to reload into the save file when it's a large park. There's lights all the way under this track though. So now we're going to pop out on the other side and we're going to be at the T-Rex Kingdom. But before we review that, I'm going to take us back to the top of the plateau. There's not a great linear order to walk through this park, unfortunately. So there you can see the aviary and the Herbivore Valley and stuff, and you would get dropped off right here. So instead of getting off here, there you can see from above. Let's go ahead and take the elevator, which pops us out right here. There's not rocks on the far side of this because you never see them, so why? It would have just taken extra hours for nothing that nobody would ever see. So, yeah, I like using the lagoon decorations for once. I feel like I don't get many chances to properly build them because I build, this is the first time I actually used the kelp. I literally haven't built a park since the kelp was added. I built only one since we've known the main lagoon set of lagoon glitches. This habitat here is the Dilophosaurus. I wasn't even going to put a habitat up here, but I needed one to kind of hide the back of the plateau and the fact that it doesn't actually continue on. But we have 3 dilos in here with the Jurassic Park skin because that's the best dilo skin. And more of this just open seating just to fill the space because I prefer that to filling it with path. And I think it works in this park. So then I really like this view here. This is actually probably my favorite view in the park, if I can find it, is where you kind of can see under the arch, and there the monorail goes by, and you can see under it all the way down to that guest section. You can get your food here. You come eat right here. You sit on these tables. We have red lights, and then purple lights, and then blue lights, which are under the track. And you can see across into the Dracorex habitat if you're really tall. I just realized how tall this track is, but you can see them when they're near the fence anyways. It totally works. And you can see the lagoon is highly elevated right here, which is kind of cool, but as we get higher and higher on the plateau, we're actually going to come level to the lagoon. And so I was able to use the concrete wall in multiple different ways, which is kind of the oldest trick in the book for park building at this point, is using that. Yep, here goes the train. Definitely make sure that glass is strong. And there goes your friends into the lagoon, never to return. So here I use this wavy Jurassic Park wall thing again to kind of break up, because this is a lot of open path and it's not very good path work anyways. And we get another chance to see into the dilos right here. Pretty basic stuff. The lagoon's very hard to decorate because it's a very thin area. So then we get this walk up to this section. This is the main lagoon guest area, which has some really cool lights that you'll see in a bit when I do my outro. And in case you couldn't tell, this is a lagoon. There's no Mosasaurus though. I wanted kind of a natural ecosystem in there, so that's why we have mostly small animals. And so I didn't want any big predator that would eat anything else, but still a variety of species. So here we get another little seating section off to the side. Just some amenities, again, to block the back wall. Some flags sunk into the walls, lots of blue and lights and stuff. So anyway, you may wonder, how do you get to the viewing domes? That's over here. And I decorated this section to kind of look like it's a reef, which is more convincing at night, but I used plants that look kind of aquatic-y, like they could be underwater. And then these you take to go underground. And this looks really cool at night, especially since this wall is so strong of plants. But if you want to keep going up the plateau, you just keep walking this way. We get to walk right by the side of the lagoon real quick. The path slightly clips through, which is nice. It does make it feel under-decorated, but it's fine. It's a very brief section, and not that many guests would go up here anyways. Here you get to see the Herbo Valley and the aviary again, into the T-Rex habitat. More tropical planters. I use them a lot up here, maybe a little bit too much, but it's okay. They're, yeah, nice viewpoints. This little habitat is for Lystrosaurus, however you say it. There you can see under the roof of the Biosyn shelter, which I think looks pretty neat. It uses a wall, again, to stop people from rolling down the rocks. And then we have this last viewing area where it's for one of my favorite animals in the game, with this big circular structure, which actually was like a moment of inspiration thing. I didn't plan that until I got to this last bit, like hour 14 of the stream. We have 2 Metricanthrosaurus in here. That's the one with the bad skin. Where's the one with the awesome Jurassic World website skin? Which we don't actually have the exact Jurassic World website skin in this game, which really frustrates me, but the closest one we can get, he's in here somewhere. Yeah, so we have a pair of Metricanthrosaurus. The problem with transport in this park is that I originally wanted a way, like Hyperloop or something, to walk back down here, but there isn't one, so you would, if you walked all the way up here, kind of have to walk just back down. And you can see we also have Archelon in here. I don't know if you saw them very clearly. They all have names that were named during stream, and so did the other dinosaurs before they were deleted. But, so that is the plateau, and that leaves us with just one last section of park to explore. This is the T-Rex Kingdom. So this is kind of concrete walled in to increase this feel of security. You're going to see this big animal, and dueling T-Rex skeletons. you can see this is actually the back of the control center, because I wasn't really going to have it facing this way, but I realized I can kind of use it from both sides as long as I block off the facility looking side, because this is a building you can walk through, which is what most guests would do to get an experience. It would be kind of like a T-Rex themed center, which is doable, like a museum display, because we know so much about T-Rex. So you can walk over here, maybe get a view of some animals in the Herbivore Valley. And this also encircles the T-Rex habitat. That leads to the second section, but real quick, I'm just going to take us up onto this plateau bit, and you can see the Herbivore Valley. There's the VIP section, the Biosin Tower, and you can see gyrospheres and lots of animals. The gyrospheres, they don't go right by this, but they go kind of near. This wall is just to keep you from rolling down. I like using those, though. So we're going to walk back over here real quick. We're going to actually go the other way, because the T-Rex is their own little isolated maintenance section facility thing, because it would be so hard to transport out here, aside from like helicopters and stuff. So yeah, I did my best to block this off. I didn't do that well. And here's a Jurassic World Staff Center, which is a great building for that kind of stuff. And this tells you, you know, don't go through here unless you're staff. There would obviously be like some sort of railing there in real life, or what are those things called, where you have the posts and you stretch a string between them? Whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So anyways, this is pretty basic stuff. We have a couple of gates that go into this kind of airlock area, which is between the main habitat and the Rexes could walk in here. This is open all the time. Well, not all the time, but you know, this is where they go at night. This is their kennels that they sleep in, like dogs. I don't know if they'd actually use that, but it was a cool idea to me. So here we go. This is where the Jeeps are. One of them's probably about to start driving right at us. And just a little basic staff area thing. Stuff like this, I try to use the structure of the buildings rather than just use them as these placeable 3D objects, which is kind of how they work in this game. But I try to think about how nice the buildings were in Evolution 1, and I was like, hey, it's about how we use them. We gotta make them look very like they're real buildings. All sorts of elements are interactable in different inventive and creative ways. So let's walk back out here, and I'm just gonna maybe clip through here. Yeah, so now you would walk through this building, and we're on this side. You get another view into the T-Rex Kingdom, if you want, right there. And yeah, here we are in front of the Control Center, which is one of the best buildings in the game, honestly. And you get a pretty good view because you can see the monorail structure behind it right there. Here we have T-Rex fighting Spino, Alamosaurus, and Alamosaurus. So many skeletons in this park. More of these aviary perch points as modern art or something, or whatever. Some decorative water. You notice it messes with the terrain a little bit. I did my best to flatten here, but couldn't do it perfectly. There's our two Mamenchisaurus. Another okay herbivore design. Should have just had the Lost World one. Here I use the overlapping banners where you can read when dinosaurs ruled the earth on any side. I didn't place them perfectly, but it's good enough. And a couple shops, but then we have our cues to the gyrosphere. And that's pretty much it. So you may wonder, what's the main viewing for the T-Rex habitat? Because it's this huge habitat and we've only seen a little bit of it. So I'm going to walk back real quick over here. And as you may imagine, we have a little seating section here, but these are entrances to the log viewing galleries. So, can't see one of them right now, but the other side is our better view, and we get two of these, so there's two of these next to each other, so you get different viewpoints, and you can see a big section of this habitat, and those are there. And you can see there's a lot of rocks, a lot of individually placeable plants in here. And there's our Rexes. They're kind of blocking the gyrosphere tracks, aren't they? They're not blocking them, but they're right near them. So yeah, that is Jurassic World Arizona 2045. That took a really long time to build. And also, this is a pretty long tour, I think. Thankfully, I don't have to really do any editing or anything. So, I'm going to set it to daytime. No, nighttime. To show you guys the lights. thank you for everyone who followed around with this project and also just the channel throughout the years. Glad to have this park done. I'm so done with the desert. You guys have no idea. I'm so done with the desert. But this was a fun build. I really did enjoy it, and I think it's a decent park, honestly. So I'm really excited to post on the Nexus where you guys can see it. Yeah, you can see what I did with the green lights in this section. Oops. I still have a hard time with the capture mode camera sometimes. I'm still new to keyboard and mouse controls. Relatively new. So yeah, you can see some cool stuff I did with the lights. Here's where we have those blue lights under the monorail track, that looks pretty good, and those purple flags, and the red spotlights, which honestly look really bright. You can see them from across the park, which wasn't entirely intended, but it's okay. Let's go ahead and go into the lagoon. You can see we have lights under the track, which kind of light the way, and the only other lights are on the pillars of the lagoon viewing domes, which obviously you guys have noticed there's no guest in this park, because no way it would graphically be able to run that. By the way, that actually looks pretty good. I didn't even mean to do that. So here, these lights are pretty cool, and it would be really nice seating. Maybe a little over the top. There's like our little coral reef bit. And I already shared this park privately, but it'll be on Nexus soon. Here's the T-Rex section, which I maybe went a little over the top of the lighting, but I think it's pretty cool. I really like this DNA fountain. I forgot how bright the gyrosphere tracks were. That made them very windy. But there you can see what I mean, like the water cascades off. And yeah, there's the blue line and the green line. We got this tall plateau. Here's those lights, which are alternating blue and green, which I thought was pretty neat. There's the staff section, which has not colored lights because it's not a guest section, so why would it? Here's the Spinosaur fountain. And yeah, that's the park, guys. I'm really glad to see it done. Wow, that was a big project. So yeah, thank you for watching this video and whatever. Bye. I'm not gonna pretend to try to do an outro anymore, because I don't actually make videos now.